You just agreed to something you deeply regret. That heavy feeling in your chest, the quiet anger at yourself, it is the signature of manipulation. We often think of Stoicism as a philosophy for gritting your teeth through suffering, but its true power is far more active. It is a complete operating system for mental self-defense. By the end of this exploration, you will possess 25 ancient psychological shields, each a Stoic concept, to protect your mind from covert influence. How did a 2,000-year-old philosophy develop such a precise toolkit for modern psychological warfare? And what is the one mental move that makes all manipulation attempts powerless? When you think about your own peace of mind, what price are you currently paying for other people's demands? That heavy feeling of regret is a signal your boundaries have been crossed. Stoicism begins its defense right at this exact point with a concept so fundamental it changes everything. It is called the Dichotomy of Control. Simply put, some things are up to us and some things are not. What is up to us? Our own judgments, our intentions, our desires, and the actions we choose to take. Everything else, from the weather to another person's opinion, from traffic to the stock market, is not fully within our power. A manipulator's entire strategy depends on confusing this boundary. They work to make their emotional state your responsibility. They might imply that your reasonable decision is the cause of their distress. A friend says, "If you do not lend me money, I will be devastated and it will be your fault." A boss suggests, "If you do not work this weekend, the entire project will fail and everyone will know who to blame." In both cases, they are attempting to hand you a burden that is not yours to carry. Their emotional reaction, the project's outcome, these are external events. They belong in the category of things not fully within your control. Your power lies solely in your reasoned choice to lend or not to lend, to work or not to work, based on your own values and judgment. When you clearly see this divide and place your energy exclusively on your side of it, you perform a kind of mental jiu-jitsu. You withdraw the very leverage they are trying to use. You stop trying to manage their feelings or guarantee their preferred outcome. You focus only on acting with integrity and wisdom in the present moment. The guilt, the anxiety, the pressure, they begin to lose their grip because you are no longer fighting on their battlefield. You have anchored yourself in the only territory you truly command, your own mind. This anchor in your own mind reveals a startling truth about value. The Stoics took the dichotomy of control one radical step further. They declared that only one thing is genuinely good and only one thing is genuinely bad. The good is virtue, your excellent character expressed through wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. The bad is vice, the corruption of that character through foolishness, cowardice, injustice, and excess. Everything else, every single thing we chase or fear, money, reputation, comfort, even our own health, they labeled as indifferent, not worthless, but not fundamentally good or bad in themselves. Their value depends entirely on how we use them. A manipulator's entire playbook is built on ignoring this distinction. They dangle the indifferent as if it were the ultimate good. They offer approval as a reward for compliance, or threaten social isolation as a punishment for independence. A coworker spreads gossip, implying your reputation will be ruined unless you go along with their scheme. A family member uses financial support as a lever, suggesting your comfort and security depend on you adopting their views. In each case, they are trying to trade a counterfeit currency for your authentic self. When you internalize that your character is your only true possession, something profound shifts. Your self-worth becomes untouchable. It is no longer tied to the external rewards they can offer or the punishments they can threaten. You can still pursue a promotion or enjoy a friendly relationship, but you pursue them with wisdom and justice, not with a desperate need that someone else can exploit. You see the bribe for what it is, an attempt to purchase your integrity. You see the threat for what it is, an attempt to scare you into betraying your principles. And because you know that compromising your character is the only real loss, you become remarkably difficult to manipulate. The pressure simply does not land. You are trading in a different economy, one where the currency is virtue and you are the sole mint. This new economy of the mind requires a disciplined gatekeeper. Your initial emotional reaction to any event is not a command, it is merely a first impression, a suggestion whispered by your senses. The Stoics called this faculty of receiving impressions proherses, and your power lies in what happens next in the act of assent. To assent is to agree that an impression represents the truth. A manipulator is a master of crafting powerful, urgent first impressions. Their words are designed to bypass your reason and trigger an immediate, visceral response. A text message arrives, its tone sharp with disappointment. It reads, "I cannot believe you would prioritize your own plans over helping me. I thought you were more considerate than that." The first impression is a wave of guilt, a sinking feeling of having failed as a friend. The manipulator's goal is for you to immediately assent to that impression, to accept that you are, in fact, inconsiderate and that you must now prove otherwise by canceling your plans. This is where you insert the pause. Stoic practice is to treat that initial emotional surge not as reality, but as data to be examined. You hold the impression at arm's length and interrogate it. Is it true that prioritizing a prior commitment makes me inconsiderate? What is the actual evidence for this claim? What might be the sender's intention in framing the situation this way? By questioning the impression, you break the automatic chain between stimulus and reaction. You reclaim the space to choose your response based on wisdom, not on manufactured guilt. Your reply then comes from a place of clarity, not defensiveness. You might say, "I understand you're disappointed I cannot help today. I made these other plans in good faith and I will keep my word. I am happy to discuss how I can support you another time." You have not assented to the false impression of your character. You have acted from your own virtue of justice, honoring both your existing commitment and the relationship. Every manipulative tactic, from silent treatments to dramatic ultimatums, relies on you granting immediate assent to a distorted impression. Your pause is the ultimate countermove, dissolving the illusion before it can take root in your mind. The pause before assent reveals a deeper battlefield, the very source of our emotional reactions. This is where Stoicism introduces its most challenging and liberating practice, the discipline of desire. It is the conscious training to want only what is virtuous and within your control. A manipulator does not create your desires, but they are a master cartographer of them. They study the landscape of your wants, your yearning for comfort, your need for approval, your deep desire for love and belonging. Then they position themselves as the sole gatekeeper to that fulfillment. Consider a relationship where affection becomes a conditional currency. A partner grows cold and distant not from a place of honest hurt, but as a calculated strategy. Their message is unspoken but deafening. If you behave as I wish, if you adopt my opinions, if you prioritize my needs above all else, then you will receive the warmth and connection you crave. They exploit the natural human desire for love by making it a reward for compliance. Your desire, once a beautiful part of your humanity, is weaponized into a hook. The Stoic response is not to become cold or unfeeling. It is to radically redirect the aim of that desire itself. The discipline asks, what is it you truly desire in that relationship? Is it the fleeting sensation of their approval today, which can be withdrawn tomorrow on a whim? Or is it to experience love in a way that aligns with virtue, with mutual respect, justice, and authenticity? The first is an external, unstable reward. The second is an internal state you can cultivate through your own actions. Practicing this discipline means finding the fulfillment of your desire for love within the act of loving virtuously itself. You choose to be patient, kind, and just because that is who you are, not because it is a transaction for affection. This internal shift dismantles the manipulator's entire apparatus. When your sense of wholeness no longer depends on receiving their specific reward, the hook has nothing to catch. You are no longer tugging on the line. You might still feel the natural pain of their distance, but you will not betray your principles to end it. You desire a good relationship, but you desire your own integrity more. This makes you impossible to control because you have moved the source of your satisfaction from their hands into your own. Your desire is now aimed at a target no one can take from you. But where does this inner integrity lead when it meets the outside world? It must express itself through the discipline of action. This is the Stoic commitment to act with justice and for the common good in every single thing you do, regardless of personal reward or consequence. While the discipline of desire governs what you want, the discipline of action governs what you do. It is your moral compass translated into motion. A manipulator understands that people can be led into unjust actions if the incentive is tempting enough or the threat is frightening enough. They present a shortcut, a small compromise, a harmless piece of gossip, framing it as a necessary step for your own benefit or the team's success. Imagine a workplace scenario. A colleague pulls you aside after a tense meeting. They say, "Look, management is clueless. The only way this project gets done on time is if we fudge the safety test data. No one will get hurt and we will all look like heroes. Think of the bonus." Or they might take a more social angle, whispering, "You know, if you want to be part of the inner circle here, you need to understand who the real problems are. Let me tell you what Sarah really said about your presentation." In both cases, the proposal is an action, cutting corners or spreading gossip, wrapped in a promise of personal gain or social inclusion. The manipulator is betting that your desire for that reward will override your commitment to doing the right thing. For someone practicing the discipline of action, this proposal simply does not compute. Their moral reasoning does not start with what is in it for me. It starts with what is just. Is it just to falsify data, potentially endangering others for a bonus? Is it just to damage a co-worker's reputation for social standing? The answer is clear. Because their aim is fixed on acting virtuously, the external payoff becomes irrelevant. They cannot be bribed into injustice because the proposed reward holds no value compared to the value of their own character. Their response is not one of moral outrage, but of simple, unwavering alignment. They might say, "I cannot sign off on inaccurate data. Let us figure out a legitimate way to meet the deadline." Or, "I prefer to form my own opinions about Sarah based on my direct experience." This unshakable commitment to right action makes you a terrible target for manipulation. You have removed yourself from the marketplace of ethical compromise. The lever they are trying to pull, your self-interest, is no longer connected to the mechanism they want to move, your behavior. Your actions flow from a deeper source, a commitment to the common good that renders their temptations and threats powerless. This commitment to right action often meets a world that seems determined to oppose it. That opposition itself is the next frontier for your protection. The Stoics had a name for this ultimate attitude of acceptance, amor fati, the love of fate. It is not passive resignation, but an active, almost fierce embrace of everything that happens, including the difficult actions of other people. A manipulator's power is parasitic. It feeds on your negative emotional reactions, your resistance, your anger, your visible frustration. They say something deliberately provoking, and they watch carefully for your flinch. That flinch is their confirmation that they have hooked you. Your emotional turmoil becomes their fuel. Amor fati disarms this entire dynamic at its source. It asks you to see the manipulator's behavior not as a shocking, unfair personal attack you must fight against, but as a piece of the unfolding world, a piece of fate, to be understood and dealt with wisely. Think of a master chess player. When their opponent makes a bold, aggressive, even rude move, the master does not slam the table in outrage. They do not take the move personally. They simply look at the board, acknowledge the new reality that has been created, and calmly calculate the most effective response. The opponent's aggression is just data, a fact on the board. Your difficult person is making their move. Amor fati is the mental shift that allows you to look at the board of your life with that same detached clarity. A family member launches into a familiar, guilt-tripping monologue. Instead of your chest tightening with dread and your mind racing to craft a defensive counter-argument, you take a breath and think, this is what is happening now. This is their pattern. This is the piece of fate I have been given to work with in this moment. The emotional charge dissipates. You are no longer a combatant in their drama. You are an observer of a phenomenon and now a strategist for your own virtuous response. You can listen not to be wounded but to understand. You can then reply from a place of choice, not reaction. You might say, I hear that you are upset. My decision on this matter remains the same. The attempt to provoke you has failed because you have chosen not to be provoked. You have loved your fate by accepting that this interaction, however unpleasant, is the very material you have to practice your virtue within. Their power to destabilize you evaporates when you cease to resist the reality of their behavior and instead accept it as the starting point for your own wise action. Acceptance prepares the ground, but resilience requires a blueprint. The Stoics built that blueprint through a deliberate mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not pessimistic worrying, but strategic foresight. It is the practice of calmly and rationally visualizing potential challenges, not to fear them but to disarm them. By rehearsing difficult scenarios in your mind, you strip them of their power to shock you in the moment. When you are caught off guard, you are far more likely to react from raw emotion, which is precisely what a manipulator hopes for. Premeditatio turns the tables. You see the play before it is run. Imagine you are preparing for a large family gathering. You know from experience that a certain relative has a pattern. They will find a quiet moment, perhaps while helping in the kitchen, to make a pointed comment. They might sigh and say, "It is such a shame you moved so far away. Your mother really needs more support, you know. We all do our part." In the past, this comment would land like a gut punch, sparking immediate guilt and a flustered, defensive explanation about your career and your visits. This year, you practice premeditatio. The day before, you sit quietly and visualize the scene. You see the relative approaching, you hear the likely words. And then, in your mind's eye, you see yourself responding not with guilt but with calm clarity. You have pre-decided your virtuous response. You might visualize yourself nodding, taking a breath, and saying, "I know family is important, and I do what I can to support Mom in ways that work for all of us." Then you see yourself gracefully changing the subject. By mentally walking through this scenario, you have done two powerful things. First, you have removed the element of surprise. When the comment comes, it feels familiar, almost expected, because you have already encountered it in your mental rehearsal. There is no emotional hijacking. Second, and more importantly, you have pre-committed to a response aligned with your values, not their pressure. You are no longer scrambling in the moment. You are simply executing a plan you made from a place of calm reason. This practice extends to any arena where manipulation might strike: a high-pressure sales meeting, a negotiation with a difficult colleague, even a challenging conversation with a friend. You ask yourself, what is the worst-case scenario they might try to create? How might they attempt to provoke me? And then you write your own script for how you will act with wisdom and composure. You are not predicting the future, you are inoculating your mind against panic. When you arrive prepared, you remain the author of the interaction, not a character suddenly written into their drama. Your calm is no longer luck, it is design. Premeditation builds your mental fortress, but the walls can still feel confining when the pressure is immediate. This is when you need a change of scenery, not physically, but mentally. The Stoics called this exercise the view from above. It is a deliberate shift in perspective, a mental zooming out from the intense close-up of your current problem to see it from a cosmic or historical vantage point. Picture yourself floating high above the earth, seeing your city as a small patch of light, your neighborhood as an invisible speck, and the room where a difficult conversation is happening as utterly microscopic. From here, the manipulative comment, the guilt trip, the social pressure, all of it shrinks to its true proportion. It becomes a tiny, fleeting event in the vast flow of centuries and the incomprehensible scale of the universe. Why does this work? Manipulation feels overwhelming because we are standing nose to nose with it. Its voice is loud, its presence fills our field of vision, and its emotional impact feels like the only reality that exists. We lose all sense of scale. A colleague's snide remark in a meeting can feel like a career-ending catastrophe. A family member's disapproval can echo as if it defines our entire worth. The view from above restores that lost scale. It asks a simple, humbling question. In 100 years, will this moment matter? In the grand story of human history, is this person's attempt to control my choice today even a footnote? Almost certainly, the answer is no. This is not meant to make your life feel insignificant, but to make the problem feel manageable. When you mentally return from that cosmic view, the dynamic has changed. The manipulator is no longer a giant casting a long shadow. They are just a person acting out their own patterns and insecurities on a small planet in a brief moment of time. Their power was an illusion created by proximity. Your anxiety, that tightness in your chest, begins to loosen because the stakes have been recalibrated. You are not fighting for your survival. You are simply navigating a small, transient social interaction with wisdom. This perspective grants you the emotional space to choose your response rather than being hijacked by the drama. You can address the issue with clarity, not because the threat was so large, but because you now see it as so small. The view from above is the ultimate tool for deflating urgency, the favorite weapon of every manipulator. When they insist you must decide now, or that this is your only chance, you can remember the slow turn of galaxies and the quiet patience of mountains. From that vantage point, their manufactured emergency holds no power. You have all the time in the world to act with virtue. That cosmic perspective does more than shrink our problems, it reveals a hidden connection. The Stoics called this sympatheia, the profound interconnectedness of all rational beings. They saw the universe not as a collection of isolated individuals, but as a single, living organism. We are all part of a greater whole, like individual limbs of the same body. This is not a vague spiritual notion. It is a practical lens for understanding human conflict, especially manipulation. A manipulator's strategy depends on destroying this sense of connection. They work to create separation, to build walls of us versus them. They whisper, "You cannot trust those people. They are out to get you, only I have your best interests at heart." Or they position themselves as the sole victim, saying, "No one else understands what I am going through, not even you." This division is their power source. It makes you feel alone, reliant, and primes you to see anyone who disagrees with them as a threat. When you internalize sympatheia, you see through this artifice. You recognize that the person trying to manipulate you is not a monster from another tribe. They are a flawed part of the same human whole, acting from a profound ignorance of what is genuinely good. They mistakenly believe that control, dominance, or emotional leverage will bring them happiness or security. In their confusion, they cause harm. This realization does not excuse their behavior, but it fundamentally changes your emotional reaction. Instead of meeting their hostility with hatred or their cunning with vengeful plotting, you are more likely to feel a kind of pity. Not a condescending pity, but a clear-eyed sorrow for someone who is so lost in vice that they must resort to such tactics. This shift is a psychological superpower. It prevents you from being dragged into their reactive, vengeful cycle. If someone spreads a lie about you to gain social advantage, the natural impulse is to rage, to plot a counterattack to destroy their reputation in return. You are pulled onto their battlefield, fighting with their weapons, but from the viewpoint of sympathizer, you see a person so insecure, so disconnected from their own worth, that they believe tearing you down will build them up. Your response can then flow from a different source. You might feel compelled to act with justice, to correct the record calmly if necessary, but your primary focus remains on maintaining your own integrity and peace. You refuse to become a mirror image of their malice. You understand that harming another part of the whole ultimately harms the whole, and by extension, yourself. This perspective is your insulation. Their attempts to provoke you, to make you hate them, simply fail to land. You see the struggling human behind the strategy, and in that seeing, you retain your freedom. Your inner peace is no longer contingent on their behavior because you have understood it, not as a personal war, but as a symptom of a deeper disconnect. You remain anchored in the interconnected whole, and from that stable place, you can choose how or even whether to engage. Sympathy shows us the human behind the action, but our own mind often adds a dangerous layer of interpretation. This is where Stoicism delivers one of its sharpest tools, objective judgment. It is the practice of describing any event, especially a painful one, in plain, bare facts, as if you were a neutral observer writing a simple police report. You strip away the story, the drama, and the emotional labels you have instinctively attached. A manipulator's language is the exact opposite of this. It is deliberately subjective, inflammatory, and absolute. They do not describe behavior, they define your character. They say, "You always let me down. You are so selfish, no one else will ever put up with you." Notice the words always, selfish, no one else. These are not observations, they are verdicts designed to trigger a seismic emotional reaction, usually shame or fear. Your mind, under assault, often mirrors this distortion. You might internally narrate the event with equal drama, thinking, "He is destroying my life," or "She is trying to humiliate me in front of everyone." These thoughts feel true because they carry such intense emotion, but they are interpretations, not facts. Objective judgment asks you to hit pause on that internal movie and describe only what the camera would have recorded. Let us replay the scene with this lens. Your partner, after you decline to cancel your plans for them, says with a cold tone, "Fine, do whatever you want." You always put yourself first anyway. The dramatic interpretation is, "They hate me, they are punishing me, this relationship is over." The objective judgment breaks it down to observable facts. Fact 1, I communicated I could not change my plans. Fact 2, they responded with the words, "Fine, do whatever you want, you always put yourself first anyway." Fact 3, their tone of voice was cold. Fact 4, they then walked into another room. That is all. Everything else, the meaning of their words, the intention behind their tone, the future of the relationship, is a story you are telling yourself. By sticking to the facts, you accomplish something revolutionary. You drain the emotional poison from the event. The statement, "You always put yourself first," is no longer a devastating truth about your soul. It is simply a string of words someone chose to say, likely with the intention of making you feel guilty. Seeing it this way, as a tactic rather than a truth, changes everything. The hook cannot set. You can now assess the situation with clarity. You might think that was an unkind thing to say. I wonder why they felt the need to say it. My decision was reasonable. I can address this later when emotions are not so high. You have not been hijacked. You are standing on the solid ground of what actually happened, free from the quicksand of their narrative or your own panicked interpretation. This mental discipline turns you into a fortress. Their dramatic language, their absolute accusations, they simply echo against the walls of your calm perception, unable to find a crack of belief to seep through. You hear the words, but you do not accept the verdict. Your power remains intact, waiting for you to choose a response based not on reactive emotion, but on the clear, quiet facts of the matter. Objective judgment provides the unshakable ground upon which you can now construct your final defense, a fortress for the soul the Stoics called the inner citadel. Picture not a castle of stone, but a psychological stronghold built from your practiced virtues. Its walls are your clear reasoning, its towers are your disciplined desires, and at its very center, in a quiet, guarded chamber, resides your faculty of choice, your proherses. This is your true self, the commander that decides what to assent to and how to act. The critical Stoic insight is this: the gates to this citadel open only from the inside. No external event, no person's words, no circumstance can force its way in without your conscious permission. You must willingly lower the drawbridge and let the invader enter. Manipulators are, in essence, psychological siege engineers. They do not possess a magic key to your mind. Instead, they surround your walls and employ every tactic to trick you into opening the gates yourself. Flattery is their Trojan horse, a seemingly beautiful gift designed to bypass your vigilance. They shower you with praise, not to celebrate you, but to create a debt of gratitude or a craving for more, making you malleable to their future requests. Threats are their battering ram, a loud, shocking assault meant to terrify you into surrender. They proclaim dire consequences, hoping the noise will panic you into throwing open the gates to make it stop. Confusion is their smoke screen, a cloud of contradictory information or gaslighting designed to obscure your vision so you cannot find the lock, leaving you disoriented and more likely to open the door to anyone who claims to have clarity. Your practice is the daily maintenance and fortification of this inner stronghold. Every time you pause before assenting to a harsh impression, you are reinforcing the gate. Every time you redirect a desire toward virtue, you are stocking the armory with resolve. Every time you act with justice despite pressure, you are stationing unwavering guards on the ramparts. This is not a one-time construction project. It is a lifelong discipline of philosophy, the constant strengthening of your mental architecture. The result is not that life stops launching assaults. The siege engines will still rumble outside your walls. The difference is you now stand calmly within, watching them from a place of absolute security. The flattery lands at the gate and is recognized as a hollow wooden horse, not a treasure. You might politely acknowledge it, but you do not drag it inside to worship. The threats slam against reinforced doors and echo harmlessly. You assess the actual danger from your watchtower with objective judgment, and you see it for what it is: noise intended to cause panic, not a genuine threat to your core. The smoke of confusion dissipates against the clear wind of your practiced thinking. You wait for it to clear, trusting your own inner compass. No event, no matter how loud or painful, can force you to betray your principles or your peace of mind, because that peace is no longer stored in the vulnerable outer world. It is secured deep within the citadel under your sole command. The manipulator shouts, pleads, and threatens at the moat, but you are no longer a hostage in your own mind. You are the sovereign of a territory they cannot conquer, because its only key was always and will always be in your hand. Your inner citadel stands unassailable, but its true purpose is not isolation. It is to provide a sanctuary from which you can live with fierce, unwavering focus. This brings us to a concept often misunderstood: memento mori, the remembrance that you must die. This is not a morbid fixation on the end, but the ultimate tool for calibrating your attention. Death is the great clarifier. It asks the single most important question you will ever face. Given that your time is finite and utterly non-renewable, what is truly worthy of it? A manipulator's entire enterprise thrives in the opposite space. They deal in the currency of the trivial, the petty, and the artificially urgent. They inflate minor social slights into catastrophic betrayals. They frame office gossip as a matter of professional survival. They manufacture crises around holiday plans or household chores, presenting them as tests of loyalty and love. Their power depends on you forgetting the scale of your own life. When you are deeply immersed in the drama of who said what in a meeting, or anxiously ruminating over a perceived snub at a party. You have granted immense importance to something that, in the grand narrative of your existence, is a footnote. Memento mori is the mental reset button. It is the practice of pausing, perhaps each morning or in a moment of rising stress, to consciously remember, I will not be here forever. This day, this hour, this very breath is a portion of my limited and precious life. When you hold that truth in your mind, a profound filtration occurs. The manipulator's provocations are suddenly seen in their true, diminished size. Imagine you are caught in a tense, passive-aggressive email chain about project credit. A colleague is subtly trying to edge you out, using vague language to take ownership of your work. Your heart races, your jaw tightens. You feel the hot urge to craft a perfectly scathing reply to defend your territory. Now apply the lens. You lean back from your screen, close your eyes for just a moment, and remember, one day you will take your final breath. On that day, will you look back and feel proud of the hours spent meticulously winning an email argument? Will the victory of claiming credit for that specific report bring you peace? Or will you wish you had spent that energy creating, connecting, or simply being present in a beautiful, passing moment? The answer is startlingly clear. The emotional charge dissipates like mist. You are not suddenly indifferent to justice, but you are freed from the petty emotional entanglement. You can now address the situation from a place of strength, not reactive panic. You might send a clear, factual correction and then let it go, your inner peace intact. Your focus shifts from winning the small battle to living the larger, more meaningful war of your own character. The manipulator's hooks were set in the thick mud of trivial concerns. Memento mori lifts you above that mud, allowing you to see the entire landscape of your life. From that altitude, their tiny hooks cannot reach you. You are no longer investing your irreplaceable time in their manufactured dramas. You are spending it on what you have decided, in the clear light of your mortality, actually matters. This remembrance does not make you reckless, it makes you ruthlessly prioritized. It silences the noise so you can hear the quiet, steady call of your own virtue. Memento mori clears the air, but the clarity it brings requires a constant, vigilant guard. This is the practice of prosoch, a Greek word meaning attention or mindfulness. Think of it not as a passive state of calm, but as your active internal security system, running a silent scan on every impression, thought, and impulse that enters your mind. A manipulator is a master of exploiting autopilot. They rely on you being mentally distracted, emotionally fatigued, or simply not paying close attention to your own internal processes. In that moment of inattention, their suggestion slips past your defenses like a spy through an unguarded gate. It plants a seed of doubt, a pang of guilt, or a surge of obligation before you even realize what has happened. Prosoch is the practice of being the ever-watchful gatekeeper. It is the conscious decision to notice the first stirring of a feeling, the initial whisper of a thought, and to hold it in the light of your awareness before you accept it as your own. For example, you are on the phone with a parent, they are recounting their troubles, and then they sigh and say, "I just do not know what I will do. I wish someone around here was more reliable." Your immediate, autopilot internal reaction is a sharp twinge of guilt, followed instantly by the thought, "I need to fix this. I have to go over there this weekend and help." Under the pressure of that emotional surge, you might immediately say, "Do not worry, I will be there Saturday to handle everything." The manipulative hook is set. Prosoch interrupts this automated sequence. It is the split second of awareness between hearing their words and feeling the full weight of that obligation. In that sliver of mental space, you notice the guilt. You observe the impulsive thought to rescue. You do not judge it or follow it, you simply acknowledge its presence. This act of noticing is itself a revolutionary power. It creates distance between the stimulus and your reaction. Now, from that small space of awareness, you can examine the impression with objective judgment. Is this feeling of total responsibility accurate? Is it just for me to drop all my prior commitments based on a side comment? What might be a more balanced, virtuous response? From this place of examination, your response changes entirely. You might say, "It sounds like you are feeling really overwhelmed. I have prior commitments this Saturday, but I can come by on Sunday afternoon to help with a few specific tasks, or we can brainstorm another solution right now." You have not been hijacked by the manufactured obligation. You caught the infiltrating emotion at the border and questioned its credentials. This constant, gentle attention to your inner world is what maintains your sovereignty. It turns every moment into a choice. Without it, you are a ship tossed by every emotional wave someone else generates. With it, you become the captain, aware of the weather, feeling the wind, but your hand remains firmly on the helm, choosing your course based on your own virtue, not on the storms others try to summon around you. That constant attention to your inner world reveals a subtle but profound choice point. We often believe our only options in conflict are to fight back fiercely or to surrender completely. Stoicism offers a third path far more powerful than either. This is the art of acquiescence. It is the skill of wisely yielding to what is outside your control, not with the bitterness of defeat, but with the clarity of a strategist who understands the terrain. Acquiescence is not passive submission. Submission is giving in to the other person's demand, betraying your own judgment to make the pressure stop. It is an internal collapse. Acquiescence is something entirely different. It is accepting the reality of the external event itself, which frees you to choose your response from a place of unshakable strength. Think of it this way: you are in a discussion that turns heated. The other person begins to raise their voice, their words becoming personal and sharp. You cannot control their decision to yell. That action, the volume of their voice, the choice of their words, belongs firmly in the category of things not up to you. Fighting against this reality, internally screaming, "They must stop yelling right now," is like trying to command the wind to cease blowing. It only creates a storm of frustration within you. Acquiescence is the moment you look at the gale and say, "Yes, the wind is blowing. This is the weather of this interaction right now." By yielding to this simple, undeniable fact, you accomplish something remarkable. You stop wasting your precious energy on the impossible task of controlling their behavior. All that energy is now available to you for the one thing you truly can control: your own response. From this place of acceptance, your options become clear and powerful. You are not frozen in reactive anger or fear. You can choose to calmly state, "I can see you are very upset. I am going to step away now, and we can continue this conversation when we can both speak respectfully." Then you leave the room, or you might choose to simply listen silently, not to their words, but to the fact of their yelling, understanding it as a sign of their own lack of control, while holding your own peace completely intact. In either case, you have not submitted to their content or agreed with their accusations. You have acquiesced to the external circumstance, which allowed you to execute a deliberate, virtuous action. The manipulator's tactic relies on your resistance. They yell to provoke a yelling match or to scare you into a panicked concession. When you acquiesce to the yelling itself and respond with calm, boundary-setting action, you dissolve the entire dynamic. Their weapon meets no resistance and therefore cannot exert force. You have stepped out of the path of the emotional avalanche, not by trying to stop the mountain from crumbling, but by calmly moving to stable ground. This art turns their outburst from a controlling lever into mere noise, a fact of the environment you note and then work around with grace and intention. Your power was never in silencing them. It was always in governing your own mind and actions, and acquiescence is the key that unlocks that governance. The art of acquiescence frees you from local skirmishes, but where does your ultimate allegiance lie? The Stoics answered with a radical, beautiful idea: cosmopolitanism. This is the profound sense of being a citizen of the world, a member of the universal city of rational beings. Your primary loyalty is not to your nation, your company, your family name, or even a specific person. It is to humanity itself and to the rational principle of justice that governs it. This is the final, structural defense against one of the most potent forms of manipulation, the appeal to tribal loyalty. A manipulator often works by shrinking your moral universe. They draw a tight, urgent circle and say, "This is all that matters, our team, our family, our secret." They then position any action, even an unethical one, as a necessary duty to that small tribe. A colleague leans in and whispers, "Look, I know asking you to overlook these numbers is against policy, but we are a team. If we do not hit this target, our whole department looks bad." They are asking you to trade universal justice for local victory. Or a family member might plead, "After everything I have done for you, you cannot say no to this one little favor, even if it means bending the truth." Here, the appeal is to personal debt and allegiance, trying to make your loyalty to them override your loyalty to truth itself. In both cases, the pressure feels immense because it taps into our deep, evolutionary need to belong to a group and to reciprocate kindness. To refuse feels like a betrayal of your tribe, a personal failing of gratitude. Cosmopolitanism redraws the map. When you see yourself first and foremost as a citizen of the cosmos, your duty expands to the entire human community. You ask a different question: is this action just not merely for my team but for the broader world? Does this secret, if kept, harm the common good? Does this favor, if granted, violate a universal principle of honesty? Your moral reasoning is no longer hostage to the small circle someone else has drawn. The team's temporary reputation cannot justify a lie that could harm clients or the public. A personal debt of gratitude cannot purchase your commitment to dishonesty. You are playing a different game on a much larger field. Your response, therefore, comes from a higher court. To the colleague, you might say, "I am loyal to this team, and part of that loyalty is ensuring we succeed with integrity." Let us find an honest way to solve this problem. To the family member, you could respond, "I am truly grateful for all you have done, and because I respect you, I cannot give you my word on something I know is not true. I am happy to help you find another solution. You have not rejected the relationship, you have simply placed it within a larger, more meaningful context." The manipulator's emotional blackmail, the threat of being a bad teammate or an ungrateful child, loses its force. You are not being disloyal, you are being loyal to a far greater and more enduring principle, one that ultimately benefits even your small tribe by protecting its long-term health and dignity. You become impervious to parochial pressure because your conscience answers to a universal law, not a local boss or a needy relative. Your tribe is all of humanity, and your duty is to act justly within it. This expansive identity is the final, unbreakable anchor that keeps you from being swept away by any smaller, more turbulent current. Cosmopolitanism gives you a vast moral compass, but in the heat of a confusing moment, you sometimes need a more immediate guide. Your mind can feel like a dark room where you are fumbling for the light switch while someone is shouting contradictory directions. Stoicism offers you a flashlight you always carry, the practice of calling on a role model. This is not about blind hero worship. It is about having a pre-loaded mental template for virtue, a psychological shortcut to your best self when you are under pressure. The Stoics kept what they called spiritual advisors, figures from history or their own lives whose character served as a living standard. Marcus Aurelius constantly reflected on the qualities of his predecessors and teachers in his private writings, asking himself how they would conduct themselves. When you are in the crosshairs of manipulation, this practice becomes a tactical intervention. The manipulator is working hard to frame the situation. They define the problem, they set the emotional stakes, they dictate the narrow range of acceptable responses. Their entire power resides in keeping you inside that constructed frame. Asking a simple question breaks the spell. How would Marcus Aurelius handle this, or Socrates, or perhaps a wise grandparent or a mentor you personally admire? The moment you pose that question, you perform a mental leap. You are no longer a solitary, pressured individual facing an overwhelming force. You are a student of wisdom consulting a council of the wise. You instantly exit their cramped, dramatic frame and step into a much larger, calmer arena governed by principle. Imagine you are in a meeting where a senior colleague is using subtle intimidation, talking over you and dismissing your ideas with a condescending smile. Inside their frame, you feel small, angry, and flustered. Your reactive mind cycles through panicked or aggressive retorts. Now you pause and invoke your role model. What would the calm, principled integrity of a figure like Cotto look like here? He would not cower, nor would he descend into petty retaliation. He would likely listen patiently, then, when there was a clear opening, restate his point with firm, unassailable logic, completely unaffected by the other person's tone. He would defend the idea, not his ego. That image gives you an instant blueprint. Your shoulders relax, your mind clears. You are no longer trying to win against the colleague. You are now trying to act with the dignity of your chosen exemplar. You might say, "I appreciate your perspective. To ensure my point is clear, let me rephrase the core proposal based on the data we have." Your voice is steady because you are not speaking from a place of threatened pride. You are channeling a model of courage and self-possession. This mental exercise is like having a philosophical coach whispering in your ear during the toughest negotiation of your life. They remind you of the virtues you aspire to embody, pulling you back from the brink of reactive emotion. You are not left to invent a virtuous response from scratch in a state of agitation. You simply recall a pattern of excellence and adapt it to your circumstances. The manipulator's tactics are designed to provoke the confused, vulnerable version of you. By summoning the image of a role model, you deny them that target. You present instead the composed, principle-driven student of wisdom, and that is an opponent they have no playbook for. A role model shows you the path, but walking it requires a different kind of courage. The comfort of your daily life can become a velvet cage, its bars so soft you forget they are there at all. Stoics deliberately rattled those bars through a practice known as voluntary discomfort. This is the conscious, periodic choice to experience mild hardship, not as a punishment but as a form of training. You might choose to take a cold shower instead of a hot one. You might decide to walk in the rain without complaint, or to skip a meal and sit with the sensation of hunger. The goal is not asceticism for its own sake. It is a practical, physical exercise in resilience. You are proving something fundamental to yourself, that you can endure discomfort and remain not only unharmed but fully in command of your mind. This practice directly attacks one of a manipulator's most reliable levers, the fear of loss. Their control is often built on the implicit or explicit threat that you will lose something you hold dear. If you do not comply, you might lose financial security, social standing, romantic affection, or simply your ease and comfort. They paint a picture of a bleak, unbearable future that only obedience can avert. Your attachment to that comfort is your vulnerability. It is the hook they sink deep. Voluntary discomfort surgically removes that hook. By willingly stepping into small hardships, you systematically dismantle the fear that powers the threat. You learn through direct experience that discomfort is not an emergency. Hunger is a sensation that passes. Cold is a feeling you can observe. Social awkwardness is a temporary state. You build a library of evidence within your own nervous system, proving that you are far more durable than you believed. When a manipulator then tries to wield the threat of discomfort, it simply does not land with the same force. Imagine a parent using financial support as a control mechanism. They say, "If you pursue that career path instead of the one I chose for you, I will cut you off." You will struggle, you will be poor and miserable. If you have never voluntarily faced scarcity, that threat can feel like a death sentence. It can terrorize you into compliance. But if you have practiced voluntary discomfort, if you have lived on a tight budget by choice, taken on extra work to prove you could, or simply gone without luxuries to know you can, your relationship to that threat changes entirely. You have a deep cellular knowing. You think, I have been uncomfortable before. I know what it feels like, and I survived. More than survived, I grew stronger. That future they paint no longer looks like an abyss. It looks like a challenge you have already trained for. The manipulator's ultimatum loses its power to paralyze. You can assess the choice from a place of strength, weighing the true value of your independence against the cost of their conditional support. Your decision comes from principle, not from panic. This psychological independence is the ultimate reward. You are no longer a prisoner of your own aversion to hardship. Your comfort becomes a preference, not a necessity. You enjoy the warm bed, the good meal, the pleasant company, but you do not cling to them as if your identity depends on them. This makes you incredibly difficult to manipulate because you have voluntarily given up the very things they try to threaten. You have looked at the tools of their trade, the fear of loss and discomfort, and you have said, I am not afraid of these anymore. I have tested myself against them and found myself sufficient. Your security is no longer located in external conditions, but in your proven capacity to meet whatever conditions arise. The velvet cage is open, and you walk out not because you were forced, but because you chose to feel the open air even when it was cold. That proven capacity to meet any condition is your foundation, but the world is unpredictable. You set a firm boundary, you act with courage, and still, the other person might erupt or refuse to listen or twist your words. If your sense of success, your very peace of mind, is tied to that specific reaction, you have handed them the keys to your emotional kingdom. This is why Stoicism introduces a subtle but mighty clause into every plan you make, the reserve clause. It is the mental addendum, fate permitting. You act with total diligence toward your goal while inwardly reserving full acceptance of any outcome. Your statement of intent is not, I will make this person respect my boundary. That makes your success, and thus your happiness, dependent on controlling another's mind, which is impossible. Your statement becomes, I will communicate my boundary clearly and calmly, fate permitting. You have done your virtuous part. Whether they receive it with grace, with anger, or with indifference is not your burden to carry. It is part of the unfolding fate you meet with acceptance. A manipulator's classic move is to make your peace contingent on a specific result they can dangle or deny. A partner, after a disagreement, might declare, I will only be happy again when you give me a full, groveling apology for what you said. They are trying to chain your emotional state to their forgiveness, a lever they can withhold indefinitely to keep you in a state of anxious striving. If you internalize this, you are trapped. Your days become a performance aimed at extracting a specific reaction. The reserve clause frees you. Your goal shifts from extracting an apology to acting with integrity. You think, I will reflect on my actions and offer a sincere amends if I was wrong, fate permitting. I will then return to acting with kindness and justice regardless of their response. You have done what is yours to do. Their lingering resentment is now their business, a piece of fate you acknowledge without letting it dictate your inner weather. You are no longer a hostage negotiator for your own happiness. This applies to any attempt at control. A difficult family member says, the holidays will be ruined unless you admit I was right. You think, I will attend with a spirit of generosity and avoid unnecessary conflict, fate permitting. Whether the day is ruined in their eyes is not your metric for success. Your metric is whether you acted with virtue. By decoupling your effort from the demanded result, you withdraw the currency the manipulator is trying to trade in. They want to sell you peace for compliance. You discover a peace that requires no purchase because it is generated by your own righteous action, come what may. Your diligence is unconditional, but your expectation is set to zero. This is not pessimism, it is liberation. You become like an archer who focuses solely on drawing the bow with perfect form, aiming true, and releasing the arrow smoothly. The wind, the distant target, the final score, these are in the hands of fate. The archer's satisfaction is in the excellence of the shot itself. When you internalize this, you can engage fully without being emotionally ransomed by the results. You set the boundary, you speak your truth, you make the offer, and then you let go because your worth was in the act of trying, not in the world's applause or its silence. The reserve clause protects your peace from unpredictable outcomes, but it leaves a final human question unanswered. What do you do with the person who caused the storm? Hatred is a tempting refuge, a fire that feels like warmth but slowly consumes the one who holds it. Stoicism offers a more profound and disarming alternative, the injunction to see the good in others. This is not naive optimism or a command to ignore harmful behavior. It is a specific, disciplined practice of perception. The Stoics believed every rational being possesses a spark of the divine logos, a capacity for reason. In a manipulator, that spark is buried under layers of fear, insecurity, and profound error. They are not evil monsters operating from a different universe. They are deeply confused humans who have arrived at a catastrophic miscalculation, believing that control, domination, or emotional leverage is the path to their own security or happiness. Your practice is to look past the toxic behavior, not to excuse it, but to see the mistaken human behind it. When someone launches a calculated guilt trip, you train yourself to perceive a person so terrified of not getting their way that they have resorted to emotional coercion. When a colleague steals credit, you see someone so insecure in their own worth that they believe your light must be dimmed for theirs to shine. This shift in perception is your psychological armor. Dehumanizing an adversary, turning them into a pure villain in your mind, is a trap. It is a form of intense negative attachment. You become obsessed, rehearsing their wrongs, plotting mental counterattacks, and allowing their presence to live rent-free in your mind. You are still handing them immense power over your inner world, just through the channel of hatred instead of fear. Seeing their fundamental error breaks that attachment. You can now respond from a place of firm, clear-eyed justice rather than vengeful, draining emotion. Your goal is no longer to make them pay or to hurt them back. Your goal is to protect your boundaries and act with integrity, while understanding that their actions stem from a flawed philosophy of life. Imagine a neighbor who constantly uses passive-aggressive notes to complain about trivialities, trying to pressure you into conforming to their silent demand. The dehumanizing view casts them as a miserable busybody, filling you with simmering resentment every time you check your mailbox. The Stoic view asks you to look deeper. You might see a person crippled by a need for control, likely feeling powerless in other areas of their life, who has mistakenly fixated on their neighborhood as the one domain they can command. This does not mean you tolerate the behavior. Justice demands you address it, but from this understanding, your response changes. Instead of an angry confrontation designed to shame them, you might choose a calm, direct conversation. You could say, "I have received your notes. In the future, if you have a concern, I would appreciate you speaking to me directly so we can find a solution together." You have upheld your boundary with strength, but without the corrosive poison of contempt. You have treated them as a mistaken rational being, not a monster. This approach is far more effective because it is not fueled by volatile emotion that they can exploit. It is calm, consistent, and rooted in principle. It is also infinitely less draining for you. Carrying hatred is a heavy burden. Seeing the good, or more accurately, seeing the potential for good buried under error, allows you to put that burden down. You walk away from the interaction with your dignity intact and your energy preserved because you have not fought a war in your heart. You have simply administered justice with the clarity of a doctor diagnosing an illness rather than the rage of a soldier attacking an enemy. That understanding of others is a gift of time, but time itself is the ultimate non-renewable resource. This brings a sharper, more immediate edge to the theme of our mortality. The Stoics called it the shortness of life, and it is less a meditation and more a call to arms. Memento mori reminds you that you will die. The shortness of life screams that you are dying right now with every passing minute. This is not a philosophical abstraction, it is a practical alarm clock for your daily choices. When you truly feel the finitude of your days in your bones, a powerful recalibration occurs. You begin to measure activities not just by their moral weight, but by their cost in your most precious currency, time. Manipulative dynamics are voracious time thieves. They demand endless cycles of analysis, anxiety, rehearsed conversations, emotional recovery, and ruminative loops. A single guilt-tripping comment from a family member can steal hours of your mental peace. A passive-aggressive workplace feud can drain your creative energy for weeks. Before this realization, you might have seen these as unavoidable social taxes, the price of keeping the peace or maintaining a relationship. Viewed through the lens of life's brutal shortness, that calculation changes entirely. You are not just dealing with an unpleasant person, you are negotiating for fragments of your one and only life. Is this drama, this repetitive argument, this walking on eggshells, truly how you wish to spend the 86,400 seconds of today? The answer becomes startlingly clear, and with that clarity comes a new kind of courage, the courage of the exit. This concept empowers you to walk away, not with the fiery drama of a slamming door, but with the quiet, irrevocable finality of someone who has just checked their watch and realized they have a more important appointment. It is the courage to say, "I do not have time for this," and to truly mean it, not as a snappy retort, but as a solemn statement of fact about your existence. Imagine a long-standing friendship that has curdled into a source of constant negativity and subtle put-downs. Every interaction leaves you feeling drained and questioning your worth. The old script, fueled by obligation and history, compels you to keep trying, to have one more clarifying talk, to endure just a bit longer. The new script, written by the urgency of a finite life, asks a different question. Do I want the memory of my next birthday, my next holiday, my next moment of free time to be stained by this dynamic? Is this how I honor the gift of my brief, beautiful consciousness? The answer guides your action. You are not walking away from a person out of hatred. You are walking toward your own life out of respect. You might gradually distance yourself or have one final, calm conversation stating that you need to invest your time differently. The guilt that once held you hostage dissolves because you are not prioritizing your comfort over their feelings. You are prioritizing your sovereign duty to spend your life well, a duty that far outweighs any social obligation to participate in toxic games. This is the ultimate application of the reserve clause. You acted with virtue within the relationship for as long as you could, fate permitting. The outcome is a dynamic that consumes time you cannot afford to lose. So you make the only rational choice a time-aware being can make. You withdraw your most valuable asset, your attention, and reinvest it in pursuits that align with virtue, growth, and genuine connection. The manipulator's hooks rely on your belief that you have all the time in the world to endure their nonsense. When you know deeply that you do not, their power evaporates. You are no longer a player in their endless game. You are a traveler on a very short journey, and you have just decided to take a different path. Silence can be a fortress. In a world that prizes constant communication, the Stoics understood that one of our greatest powers is the ability to choose not to speak. This is not the silence of fear or submission, but the strategic, deliberate silence of the unassailable mind. It is the ultimate application of the reserve clause to conversation. You have done your part by acting with integrity, and now, fate permitting, you have nothing more to say. Manipulators are verbal engineers. Their entire craft depends on your engagement. They need you to justify, argue, defend, and explain, a psychotherapist called Jade. Each word you offer in this state is another piece of raw material they can twist, reinterpret, and weaponize against you. Your emotional explanation becomes proof of your guilt. Your logical defense becomes evidence of your coldness. Your attempt to set a boundary becomes a springboard for a new round of negotiation. They are fishing, and every word you speak is another tug on the line that confirms you are hooked. The power of silence is the act of cutting that line. It is the conscious decision to starve their tactic of its only fuel, your reaction. Imagine a colleague who consistently undermines you in meetings with backhanded compliments. In the past, you might have tried to explain yourself, to clarify your position, to defend your record. Each time, the discussion spirals into a confusing debate where you feel increasingly flustered and they appear calm and reasonable. Next time you try a different strategy, they make their veiled critique something like, well, that is an ambitious timeline given your usual thorough approach. Everyone looks at you expecting the familiar dance. Instead, you meet their gaze calmly, offer a slight, unreadable nod, and simply say nothing. You let the silence hang in the air for 3 full seconds, then you turn to the group and say, as I was saying about the project milestones, and continue with your original point. What have you done? You have denied them the conflict. You have refused to hand them the emotional payload they were mining for. Your silence was not a void, it was a statement louder than any retort. It communicated, I see your move and I decline to play. This is profoundly disarming. They are left holding a weapon that requires your participation to function, and you have walked off the stage. The same principle applies to more direct pressure. A family member pushes for a commitment you have already refused. Instead of JADEing, instead of saying, I cannot because of my work and the kids and the other thing, you employ a calm, clear, and terminally simple response. No, or my answer has not changed. Then you become silent. If they protest, you repeat the phrase, or you say nothing at all. You do not fill the uncomfortable quiet with justifications they can dismantle. You allow them to sit in the silence of their own unmet demand. This silence is a boundary made audible. It draws a line in the air that their words cannot cross. In that quiet space, their manipulation has nothing to push against, no argument to rebut, no emotion to exploit. It simply exhausts itself. Your peace is no longer something they can disrupt with sound, because you have chosen to reside in a quiet they cannot reach. This stoic silence is the sound of your inner citadel's gates remaining shut, not in defiance, but in profound, unshakable peace. That strategic silence reveals the underlying mechanics of the entire world. The Stoics peered into the fabric of reality itself and called it physics, their understanding of a universe governed by a rational, unbreakable web of cause and effect. Every event, from the falling of a leaf to the rise of an empire, is the necessary result of prior causes stretching back in an infinite chain. This includes human behavior. A person who manipulates is not a supernatural anomaly erupting into your peaceful world. They are a determined outcome, a complex product of their own flawed beliefs, their unique fears, their specific upbringing, and every experience that has shaped their worldview. Their actions are the logical, almost mathematical result of their internal programming. They believe control equals safety, so they seek control. They believe guilt is an effective tool, so they wield it. This perspective is not about excusing harm, it is about understanding its origin with crystal clarity. When you see their behavior as the determined result of cause and effect, you perform a profound mental shift. You stop seeing a monster and start seeing a force of nature. You do not take a hurricane personally. You do not rage at the rain for being wet. You observe its patterns, you respect its power, and you take sensible measures to protect yourself. A manipulator, viewed through this lens, becomes a human-shaped weather system, operating according to the internal logic of their own storm. That colleague who takes credit is blowing a specific wind, born from a deep insecurity seeded years ago. That family member who uses obligation is generating a particular precipitation, formed from their own twisted notions of love and loyalty. The sting of taking it personally vanishes because you realize their behavior was never truly about you at all. You are merely the nearest object in the path of their long-developed pattern. This understanding is the ultimate source of detachment. It allows you to stop asking the exhausting, unanswerable question, why are they doing this to me? You already know the answer. They are doing it because, given their entire history and their current beliefs, they could not do otherwise in this moment. This frees up an immense amount of emotional energy. That energy is now available for the one part of this cosmic equation that is not fully determined, the one variable with genuine freedom, your own faculty of choice, your prohesis. In a universe of cause and effect, your reasoned assent and your virtuous action are the wild cards. Your response is the only truly free event in the interaction. So you stop wasting energy trying to change the weather system, a futile effort. Instead, you focus all your power on building the best possible shelter, which is your own virtuous character, and choosing the wisest path through the storm. You navigate, you do not negotiate with the wind. This removes you from the drama entirely. You become a scientist observing a fascinating, if difficult, phenomenon, while calmly deciding on your own experiment in integrity. The pressure to react, to retaliate, to win dissolves. Your goal is no longer to stop the rain, but to remember your coat and continue walking your chosen path with dignity. Your coat against the storm is not made of fabric, but of a radical understanding of ownership. The final practice is one of deliberate material poverty, not as a life sentence, but as a temporary, recurring exercise. This is the practice of poverty, and its purpose is to sever the invisible strings attached to every possession you cherish. We live in a world where material things are not just objects, they are social tokens, symbols of security, and in the hands of a manipulator, powerful leverage. Consider the parent who holds an inheritance over an adult child's head, a conditional promise used to dictate life choices, careers, even relationships. Think of the partner who gives lavish gifts only to later cite them as proof of your obligation, a debt you never agreed to owe, or the social circle where your standing, your very inclusion, depends on maintaining a certain appearance, a specific car, a particular address. In each case, your attachment to the material object or the financial security is the hook. Your fear of losing it is the pressure point they exploit. The practice of poverty directly attacks this vulnerability at its root. It is the conscious, periodic choice to live far below your means for a set time. You might eat only simple meals for a week, wearing only your most basic clothes, avoiding any non-essential purchase. You might give away a cherished item you realize you do not truly need. The goal is not self-flagellation, but experiential research. You are conducting a personal experiment to answer a vital question: what remains of me when these external supports are temporarily removed? What you discover is transformative. You learn that your happiness, your identity, your essential self does not vanish with the comfort. The silence in a simple room can be peaceful. The taste of plain food can be satisfying. The freedom from maintaining an image can be exhilarating. You prove to your own nervous system that you are not your possessions. Your security is not in your bank account, but in your capacity to adapt, to think, and to find contentment within the scope of your own character. This practiced detachment makes you functionally immune to financial coercion. When someone threatens to cut you off, your internal response is not blind panic, but a calm assessment. You think, I have lived with less, I know what it entails. I am capable of it. The threat loses its teeth because it is threatening you with an experience you have already voluntarily mastered and survived. The conditional gift loses its power to induce guilt because you no longer see possessions as metrics of your worth or as transactions for your autonomy. You can receive a gift with genuine gratitude while knowing deep in your bones that if it were ever used as a lever, you could hand it back without your world collapsing. Your sense of abundance becomes internal, generated by your virtues and your appreciation for life itself, not by the artifacts you accumulate. You walk through the marketplace of life, admiring the beautiful wares, but you are no longer a desperate shopper. You are a curious observer, free to engage or walk away, because your treasure is already secured within the walls of your inner citadel, far beyond any manipulator's reach. That internal treasure, secure beyond any market's reach, forces a final reckoning with society's loudest currency. The world constantly auctions our attention, our loyalty, and our very sense of self, using a bidding system built on reputation. They call it fame or status or simply what people think. The Stoics examined this entire marketplace and declared it a mirage. Their response was not indifference, but a profound and active contempt for fame, not as a bitter rejection, but as a clear-eyed understanding of its true worthlessness as a measure of a human life. This contempt is your 24th shield, and it renders two of manipulation's most potent weapons completely inert. On one side, there is love bombing, the shower of excessive praise and public admiration designed to create a debt of gratitude and addiction to approval. On the other, the smear campaign, the threat of public shaming, gossip, and social ostracization designed to induce fear and compliance. Both tactics operate on the same faulty premise that your worth is something other people can award or revoke. When you internalize the Stoic view, you see this premise for the con it is. Your character is your only true possession, and it is evaluated by your own conscience, not by public opinion. A manipulative person might begin by orchestrating a chorus of praise. They might lift you up in front of others, calling you the most talented, the most reliable, the very heart of the team. This feels wonderful, but its purpose is strategic. It inflates a social bubble around you, one they control the air supply to. The moment you step out of line, the praise stops and the bubble threatens to pop. The implied threat is deafening. You must continue to earn this adoration by conforming to their expectations. Conversely, if you resist them from the start, they may switch to the weapon of reputation. They might spread a carefully curated half-truth, a rumor that paints you as difficult, selfish, or incompetent. They bank on your terror of social exile, the deep human fear of being judged and found wanting by the tribe. Your contempt for fame dismantles both machines. You receive the lavish praise, and you might politely say thank you, but internally, you place it in the same category as the weather. It is an external phenomenon, a pleasant breeze that says nothing definitive about your core worth and will inevitably change. You do not build your identity on this sand. Because you are not emotionally invested in maintaining that specific praise, you cannot be blackmailed by its withdrawal. When the love bombing ceases, you notice the change in climate, but your inner stability is unshaken. You think the praise was never mine to keep. My value remains what it always was, determined by my actions, not their applause. Similarly, when faced with a smear campaign, the sting of injustice may be real, but the fear of social death loses its grip. You understand that the opinions of those who would believe a one-sided rumor without evidence are not a court whose judgment you respect. Your goal shifts from repairing a false public image to acting with integrity in the face of the falsehood. You might correct the record calmly if it serves justice, but your primary focus is on living in alignment with your virtues, regardless of the distorted shadow your name casts in the gossip mill. You are not playing the reputation game, so you cannot lose it. Imagine a community leader who relies on public admiration to control their inner circle. They praise you lavishly at an event, calling you their right hand. Later, in private, they ask you to support a decision you find ethically questionable. The old you, hooked on that public praise, might swallow your objections, fearing the fall from grace. The you fortified by contempt for fame sees the trap. You recognize the praise as a down payment on your compliance. You can respectfully disagree, knowing that your worth is not stored in their next public speech. If they then turn and whisper criticisms about you to others, you feel the injustice but not the panic. Your peace was never housed in their good opinion. It resides in the quiet knowledge that you acted with courage and justice when tested. This is the ultimate freedom from social manipulation. you can still appreciate genuine, specific feedback from people you trust because that is useful data for self-improvement. But the manipulative use of reputation as a carrot or a stick simply does not work on you. You have exited the arena where that game is played. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by public praise or blame. You are the audience watching the performance with mild interest while your real life, the life of character and purpose, goes on undisturbed backstage. Reputation's noisy auction house finally falls silent, leaving you in a profound quiet. This quiet is not empty, it is alive with the hum of your own thinking. After 24 shields, we arrive at the foundation upon which every single one is built, the last and only refuge you will ever need, your own faculty of reason. The Stoics called this logos, and they saw it as a fragment of the divine order itself, planted within you. Every concept we have explored, from the dichotomy of control to the contempt for fame, is not a separate rule to memorize. It is an application of this one supreme tool. It is your reason learning to distinguish what is yours from what is not. It is your reason choosing to value virtue over externals. It is your reason pausing before assenting to a distorted impression. The entire architecture of Stoic self-defense is simply your own rationality, fortified and turned inward to guard itself. This is the ultimate, unassailable truth. No manipulation, no matter how sophisticated, no emotional pressure, no matter how intense, can directly command your reason. They can shout outside the walls, but they cannot reach inside and move the gears of your judgment for you. That lever is yours and yours alone. You always, in every single moment, retain the final say in two sacred operations: how you interpret what is happening and what you choose to do about it. A person can scream insults, but only you can decide to interpret those words as a reflection of their pain rather than a truth about your soul. A person can threaten loss, but only you can decide to interpret that threat as a test of your courage rather than a prophecy of your doom. A person can weave a complex web of guilt, but only you can decide to see it as a web, a constructed thing, and not as the actual structure of reality. Your reason is the lens through which all events are filtered, and you hold the lens. This is not a metaphor, it is a psychological fact. The space between an external event and your internal response is where your sovereignty lies, and that space is accessed only by reason. Protecting this inner space, this quiet command center, is the supreme goal of all Stoic practice. It is why you examine impressions. It is why you practice voluntary discomfort. It is why you remember your mortality. All of it is training to keep the lens clean, to keep the command center free from static, so that when the pressure comes, your reason can issue its orders with clarity. Your peace was never out in the world, waiting to be found or approved. It was always here, in this silent, luminous capacity to perceive, to judge, and to choose. When you stand firm in that knowledge, you have not just learned a set of techniques. You have come home to the only fortress that can never be breached, because its gates are made of your own conscious thought, and they open for no one but you. This journey through 25 concepts is not a scattered collection of tips. It is a complete suit of psychological armor, forged in the fires of ancient wisdom and ready for the battles of modern life. Each concept, from the dichotomy of control to the final refuge of your own reason, interlocks with the next. The pause before ascent strengthens the inner citadel. The view from above supports the courage of the exit. The discipline of desire fuels the art of acquiescence. Together, they form a single, integrated system for mental self-defense. Stoicism does not ask you to become a stone, unmoved by the world. It trains you to become a mountain, deeply rooted in your own virtue, so the winds of manipulation, however fierce, can howl around you without ever shaking your core. You are no longer a potential victim of other people's strategies or life's unpredictable storms. You are an active, resilient agent, the author of your judgments and the guardian of your peace. The philosophy is not a theory to admire, but a practice to live, and that practice begins with a single, deliberate choice. This week, look back over these 25 shields. Which one whispered to you? Was it the power of the strategic silence, where you stop feeding a conflict with your words? Or perhaps the liberating lens of objective judgment, where you describe events as bare facts, not dramatic stories? Choose just one, commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Notice when the old reactive pattern starts to rise and consciously apply your chosen concept. See how it changes the interaction, but more importantly, see how it changes you. Share your journey in the comments below. Which concept became your anchor this week? Your insights create a community of practice, a digital Stoa where we can all learn from each other's courage. If this path of practical wisdom resonates with you, consider subscribing. Together, we can continue exploring how to navigate life's complex challenges not with anxiety, but with clarity, not with fragility, but with unshakable strength. Your mind is your fortress. You now hold the keys. Go forth and command it.